Welcome back to another video. It's Aiden here from Bespoke Coach Works. This time we're going to be making the boat tail deck. So for those of you that have watched all of my videos up to this point, I'm going to sound like much of a broken record, but for those who are new, I'm going to repeat it anyway. Starting off with a paper pattern. The reason why I like to use paper as my pattern is that it gives you the information that is required in the panel. So it gives you your panel size, it gives you where it is that you need to be doing the majority of your shrinking, where you have radius, you can mark in highlight lines, details, all that sort of thing. So it's really your roadmap to your final piece. There's lots of different methods of doing it. I find paper as the best for myself in terms of getting everything that I need, getting my panel size. It's a fairly fast method. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to get you along the direction. Obviously, the better your paper pattern is, the easier that is. If it's got a lot of detail, I'll take more time in my paper pattern and add in more of those details, like some feature lines and things like that. For a panel like this, I'm really just marking out my radius along the back there, where I'm marking right now, getting my panel size, and that's about it. There is a little bit of shrinking in this panel, but it's very minute. That it's hard for the paper to fully pick up. So, but that really is a bit of a understanding material sort of thing. Like you got to kind of analyze your panel, see where you've got to do some shrinking. You can see there's a couple of little ruffles in the center just there, and that's roughly where the shrinking is going to be. So just marking out the highlight lines, and there you can see the panel with the highlight line marked out, the radius across the back, and then the linear stretch that needs to happen across that area to pull that radius around. Cleaning the wheel like always. I'd have a 36-inch radius in the lower anvil. So I find if you have too much pressure on that wheel, that little line of stretch is creating lots of tension. So I try and back my pressure off, and then the result of that is that you're able to sort of work over the whole panel and bring the panel together, and it gives the panel a lot nicer feel. It doesn't have all those, it doesn't have that real twisty poppiness that you get in a lot of, or you see in a lot of English wheeled panels. So that's just my thinking towards it, is always to err on the side of a lighter pressure, like a more medium light than I say like a medium or a medium heavy sort of pressure. And yeah, I just find that that's the best way for developing, because you can go over the panel, and if you think there's a certain area that needs a little bit more, it's just a small little bump towards, the tighter pressure, to give it a little bit more, but you're still only really moving into a medium sort of pressure. Very rarely, very rarely am I ever going into a higher pressure sort of state to start wheeling. So I've just changed off to a higher crown radius. When I say higher crown, most likely I've only moved up to a 24, I would say. For a panel like this, it is fairly flat. In terms of designs with this panel, from what I've been able to research, I haven't ever been able to find a Phantom III, which is what this Rolls Royce is, in a boat tail. So from a design perspective, I've had to look at the Rolls Royces in the past, like the earlier cars, which were typically Phantom 2s, that they had a lot of boat tail designs. I'm not sure exactly the reasoning for possibly not having the most extravagant designs in the late 30s. Possibly, we're getting closer to the Second World War, as well as, I guess, things with the financial situations would have been different in the time as well. So you didn't see in the Phantom 3s, you didn't see the most extravagant designs. A lot of them were just like limousines or a standard sort of convertible design. So I really tried to take a lot of my design inspiration, especially in the boat tail section, from the earlier cars, and then just a little bit of what the shape was telling me. But with this particular car, I'm trying to run a little bit flatter boat tail deck than say what I had done with the Auburn Speedster build that I had done, and that's purely just it's more Rolls Royce. Sure, possibly to make the car a little bit more voluptuous and have that sort of more radius and shape in that bow tail may possibly be a more attractive symbol. But I think with this, being that it's a Rolls Royce, I think that the flatter boat tail deck is the right option. So fitment's not too bad. You can see I've done a little bit of shrinking across that, just a little bit of kick shrinking across that edge just to roll that edge over. There isn't a whole lot of shrinking there, although it needs to kick a little bit harder. So I'm going to go in with the thumbnail shrinking dies now, just in a couple of spots, just to pull that front edge around a little bit more. It's hard to picture it from the angle that I've got, or not being able to move around the car, but although it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of shape in this piece, it's got like a bit of a weird twist in it. So it's a lot to, it's hard to manage and really mark out in your paper pattern, being that it just didn't want to show you all that information. But I had the essentials of the highlight line, and I was able to analyze exactly where it is that we needed to do that work. So I was able to get around it. Back to the wheel and just smoothing out those shrinking marks, trying to just roll that radius around at the front. Because of the twist, it's sort of the front of this part has a fair sort of radius, but then as you roll around to the back, it's sort of just like the radius, I guess, twists out, like it tapers out of the panel. And the way that I've also designed it is that the bead line that you would have seen in the last video at the top of that bead line at the is the start of the transition for the boat tail. So on the Auburn Speedster build that I did, it was the bead was lower in the quarter panel, so it sort of went through the quarter panel, and then you still had a little bit of quarter panel section before you rolled into the boat tail, and it had like a bigger radius rolling into it. Where for this one, I had a real sort of sharp defining line to develop the boat tail, and then gives it that look of the boat deck. Because you think of a boat, and it has I don't know the boat terms, but it has the sides of the boat are quite vertical, and then it has that real sharp break onto the boat tail deck. So fitting back to the car now, you can see that the panel is fitting all along, and I'm getting ready to mark out that radius across the back. And this radius here actually flows through around the back of the car, and then it flows through into the quarter panel. So and I've sort of set it up as if you got down at eye level with that radius, which is going to be the dash cowl sort of edge through the door, through the quarter panel, and then it wraps up and around across the back. So that radius is all the same. So now I'm just marking it out, and we need to go over to the power hammer and start doing some linear stretching. So yeah, onto the power hammer now. And the majority of the linear stretch needs to go into that corner. And yeah, because it's a reverse curve, a lot needs to go into that corner. So I'm going to go between linear stretching, setting up the T-dolly and the plastic mallet, so I can start to develop that radius around, similar to how I done the radius on the top of the door skin. Once you start to break that edge over, all I'm doing here is just like supporting the panel, holding the radius dolly underneath on my line that I have marked out, and just breaking that top edge around. And as I break that top edge around, that will straighten the panel, so that that back area, that longer sort of area of the back, will need a shrink to be able to develop that radius back into it. But then because we're working on the reverse curve, we also have to linear stretch. So it's a bit of a jump between all the different panels, because as you pull that reverse curve area around without introducing the right amount of stretch, it's actually going to want to bend that sort of narrow tip down, which you can kind of see there. If I move my hands out of the way, you can see that excuse me, tip is it's bending down. So I'm also linear stretching on that edge to sort of flare it out. With having such a tight radius, you can't always, do all this work purely by the machines, especially when it comes to tighter radiuses. So, to be able to use your hands, such a vital component. You saw when I done the door skin and all that sort of thing. That cleanup with your hands is such an important skill. And for anyone out there that's learning and wanting to, better their understanding of metal shaping, I always, learning with your hands is such a critical skill. If you can't, master to make something by only using your hands, you're going to struggle when it comes to getting on the machines, or the machines are going to disguise your ability. I use the machines a lot, but that's because I'm at the point where I'm chasing speed. So, but you've got to have those crucial skill set by using your hands first. So just going through, using the light, you can see I'm moving my head around a lot, and that's just continually just looking for the light, just to make sure that radius is all the highlight lines on that radius are right. You can sort of place your dolly in the right area to, chase the panel where you want it to be. Getting towards the end of the video now as well, so say my thank yous, and make sure you go through and you like and you share and you subscribe. After this panel, we're starting to move on to the guard, and the guard has so many sections in it, so there'll be lots of cool videos breaking down the build of the guard. The guard is a massive piece, so yeah, thank you for watching, and appreciate you all. And make sure, yeah, you like, share, and subscribe. Cheers.